So welcome back to the channel, ladies and gentlemen. This is the Ninch Movies. Today I'm going to be doing a review of the 1991 film The Doors. I just felt compelled to do this movie review, honestly, because it was such an experience to watch this film. I'd heard so much about this for the longest time. Me personally, I just wanted to get out the way before I review the film. This is not a slight against Jim Morrison himself or the music that the band put out. They're far, before my time, honestly. And after the film, I was compelled to listen to some of their music. They've still got a huge fan base, like 12 million monthly listeners on Spotify. And, considering how long he's been dead, that's a crazy, crazy number. So anything that I say about the film is not a slight against him or his sort of relevance in pop culture and what people idolize him for. But this movie is kind of arse, and I was kind of upset about it. It's not like one of the worst things I've ever seen by any stretch of the imagination. I just think it was really, for Oliver Stone, who is a great filmmaker, this was really just sort of not enjoyable as a watch. I could see this film being much more enjoyable if you were actually on some of the substances, featured in the film. It's just not a well executed film. I don't know, once again, I never was a fan of Jim Morrison. I didn't follow his career or anything like that. Maybe he really just was this unlikable person, but he's portrayed in the film in such a manner that you don't really enjoy him as a character, as a person. You actually feel a lot more compassion for the bandmates, in my personal opinion. I do understand as well that they had to show off all his faults, and, maybe that's truly who he was as a person. He didn't care, he just wore his heart on his sleeve and just showed you all his faults. But a large majority of this film is spent in a sort of drugged out state or completely, blackout drunk state. And it's kind of hard to follow a character that is, inebriated the whole fucking movie, really. Both sides of the coin, though, I will say, even though I wasn't a fan of how this movie itself was executed, Val Kilmer, man, this was nearly an Oscar-worthy performance, probably the best performance I've ever seen him done. Which is where it kind of gets confusing, because it's a movie that is not enjoyable, but you will enjoy his portrayal of Jim Morrison himself. I just felt like this movie repeated itself over and over again. You'd have a scene where Jim Morrison would, just be at parties and they're showing his fame, like maybe him talking to Andy Warhol or something like that. He gets blackout drunk, does some pills. Then he'll be on stage making a dick out of himself, absolutely just not wanting to sing the lyrics, getting his cock out on stage. Play a couple songs, rinse and repeat. That's kind of the movie. It just gets tiresome. I think the movie is way too long. I was compelled to watch this movie simply for the fact that it was interesting to me that Oliver Stone originally wrote Charlie Sheen's character in Platoon for Jim Morrison. And then, of course, he passed away, unfortunately. And then, life just goes full cycle. And he made a movie about Jim Morrison in the end. I was compelled to watch it for that reason. I was left a little disappointed, honestly. It's an experience. It definitely is. Visually, it is, once again, if I was on a substance, probably my favorite movie to watch on a substance, because it is just a trip. But as the average viewer, it's kind of just a headache to watch. Very incoherent storytelling. Once again, if your main character is completely off his face for most of the movie, you're kind of just sitting back watching a drunk person talk shit. That's just me. This could be a favorite of a lot of people, but I think the proof's in the pudding that this movie didn't make its budget back. It got close. It made, something like $45 million. I'm just going off stats on IMDb, by the way, but it did not make its budget back. And I think it's just because this is a movie that would alienate a lot of just the regular audience, like someone like me. I am happy that I watched it to say that I've watched it, because I heard so many things about this film over the years. But for me, not really an enjoyable experience, not really at all. But I got to give props to, Oliver Stone for, clearly he's a huge fan of Jim Morrison. He made the movie he wanted to make, as well as Val Kilmer, just a 10 out of 10 performance. It really is. But for me, I guess the best part of it is the fact that I went back and listened to some of their music. I enjoyed it. Once again, this is just a movie review. I'm not talking about his legacy. Please don't get angry in the comments if you're a huge Jim Morrison fan. I would actually be interested to know if, maybe you saw him live when he was alive, or you followed his career. Was he really, how they portrayed him in the films? I'd just be interested to know. But overall, I would not recommend watching the film. Kind of an overrated piece of garbage that, yeah, has just been talked about and talked about. I finally watched it. Wasn't for me personally, but if it's your favorite movie, if it's your favorite band, fine, so be it. It's all about opinions. But at the end of the day, I wasn't a fan. Leave this video a like, add it to your favorite, subscribe, and I guess I'll see you guys in the next video. Scoop!